Chihiro lives in a tranquil seaside town. Life here is leisurely and soothing. The noisiest place in the town is perhaps the bento shop at the street corner. Due to the excellent taste of the food, there is often a long queue in front of the shop. Chihiro, who is responsible for taking orders and handling payments, stands at the window, skillfully and calmly attending to each customer. Joyful laughter and chatter reach the kitchen, causing Grandma Nagai, who is making bentos, to softly exclaim that Chihiro, having worked in a bar, handles men with such ease. These words reach Chihiro's ears, but she sees them as a unique form of praise. Chihiro never hides her past, as if those secrets are not difficult to speak of. Everyone knows about Chihiro's experiences, yet no one shows any signs of disdain. Perhaps it is due to Chihiro's kindness and enthusiasm. Perhaps everyone understands the rules of the adult world, or perhaps no one can refuse Chihiro's gentle and warm smile. Chihiro seems to possess a unique aura that easily attracts the attention of others. Kaneko, who studies nearby, often notices this free-spirited woman. Chihiro is like a carefree little cat, stretching her body alongside a tabby cat, as if no one is watching. She is also like a seagull ready to take flight, standing on a swing, striving to get closer to the sky. In short, in Kaneko's eyes, every move Chihiro makes is beautiful and captivating. Chihiro's ever-present smile is highly infectious, and even when captured in a photograph, it makes Kaneko unable to help but gaze at it repeatedly. During a dull math class, Kaneko flips through the secretly taken photos, her gaze unintentionally drifting outside the window. What is this woman doing at this moment? At this time, Chihiro has just finished work. A group of children is mocking a homeless man, an elderly man with white hair looking quite embarrassed. As the old man picks up his belongings to leave, Chihiro quickly speaks up to dissuade him, causing the children to scatter. Chihiro asks the old man about his situation, but he remains silent. So, Chihiro invites the old man to taste the bentos in the shop. Chihiro does not care about the old man's uncertain identity and even takes him home to clean up. The old man, now in clean clothes, smiles but dares not linger and quickly bids farewell. Chihiro watches the old man's back and says goodbye loudly. Though they met by chance, Chihiro has thus made a kindred dining friend. In the days that followed, the two often dined together. On the sofa in their secret base, facing the vast harbor, accompanied by the melodious sound of a whistle, they share the delicious food in their hands. However, farewells always come unexpectedly. The old man disappears without a trace, and searches yield no results. Chihiro thought the old man had gone to another city and could only enjoy the day's meal alone. Chihiro's life is like a comic book or novel, always quietly opening new chapters. At mealtime, Chihiro noticed someone appearing at the door. Chihiro realized that this place was not unowned. The bookshelves and comics belonged to the girl Chinatsu standing at the door. The two had a common topic because they both liked the same comic character. A new friend entered Chihiro's world, while old acquaintances were not forgotten by Chihiro. The flamboyantly dressed Basil visited with red wine, and in this beautifully colored liquid, the two calmly discussed the hardships of life. When a friend recounted being swindled out of all their store funds, Chihiro furrowed her brows for the first time. Chihiro got up and leaned close to her friend, gently resting her head on Basil's shoulder like a kitten. Such a close gesture brought a smile to her friend's face, which was the best comfort for a friend. In her leisure time, Chihiro read in the park, facing the sea breeze. Due to an unexpected playful incident, Chihiro met the boy Makoto. However, their first encounter was not pleasant, as the scars on their hands testified to the earlier conflict. The boy looked down at the compass on the ground, seemingly waiting for an impending reprimand. But Chihiro did not pursue the matter. Chihiro took Makoto to a bento shop and paid for the child's dinner out of her own pocket. Feeling guilty, Makoto repeatedly apologized, and Chihiro smiled as she tousled the boy's hair. Chihiro seemed not to reject social interactions, but only when Chihiro was alone did she exude an aura of peace and tranquility. The sunset in the sky cast a soft glow, and Chihiro stood barefoot in the water, with shimmering golden light covering the sea surface. Such warm tones, yet they lingered with a hint of piercing loneliness. Kaneko also sensed something unusual in Chihiro's emotions. Kaneko imitated Chihiro, taking off her shoes and socks, carefully walking towards the sea. The two standing figures resembled a serene oil painting. When Kaneko opened her mouth to introduce herself, Chihiro candidly stated that she did not believe this information, because everything could be forged. This was the experience Chihiro gained from her last job. Although that experience was not glamorous, Chihiro never avoided it. Chihiro gently held Kaneko's face, and in that moment of eye contact, Kaneko felt a gentle, yet firm strength. The phone in her pocket rang again. It was her mother urging Kaneko to come home. Noticing Kaneko's low spirits, Chihiro deliberately splashed water. The laughter of the two drifted away with the wind. Unlike her interactions with classmates, Kaneko experienced genuine joy for the first time. Kaneko gazed at the comic poster on the wall, yet her feet remained immersed in the sensation of the sea. Compared to awkwardly trying to fit into her classmates' conversations in the noisy KTV, Kaneko preferred standing by the sea, basking in the golden, slanting sunlight. The balance in her heart had already tilted towards Chihiro. Watching her classmates passionately discuss yesterday's comics, Kaneko gathered her courage to express her own opinion. False friendships are inherently fragile. A single differing opinion is enough to shatter them. The other three exchanged glances, but Kaneko remained unfazed. Kaneko began to emulate Chihiro, stretching herself and living freely. During her free time, Chihiro would visit the bento shop owner Tei at the hospital. Chihiro had not given up on searching for the missing homeless man. Chihiro searched inch by inch and eventually witnessed the heartbreaking reality in an abandoned bungalow. The old man lay face up under the sunlight, but his body was already cold. Chihiro silently looked at this former dining companion. After nightfall, Chihiro fetched a shovel to dig a grave for the old man. In the face of life's passing, all Chihiro could do was this. The warm water washed over her body, and the dirt on her skin quietly flowed into the drain. Those silent emotions transformed into a sudden wave of hunger. Chihiro made herself a bowl of noodles, and the room was quiet except for the sound of chewing. Sadness slowly digested along with the food. Life is like a train journey. Some can only accompany you for a few stops before waving goodbye. But the vacant seat will not remain empty for long. New passengers will always take a seat. Chihiro and Basil agreed to go to the temple fair. While catching goldfish, Chihiro encountered her former shop manager. In response to Chihiro's surprise, the manager expressed that he had grown tired of a life hidden from the light, so he opened a small shop selling tropical fish. Upon hearing that Chihiro now worked at the bento shop, the manager was also quite surprised. The sight of the two chatting and laughing became complicated in Basil's eyes. But Chihiro said little, quietly eating the candy apple in her hand. The manager gifted Chihiro a plump goldfish, which she kept by the window in the sunlight for company. Due to Chihiro's unique aura, everyone gradually became more familiar with each other. Kaneko and Makoto playfully fought over rice balls as if they were the finest delicacies in the world. Others might not understand why Kaneko was unwilling to save her appetite to eat at home. But only Kaneko knows how oppressive the atmosphere at home is. The dining table is filled with exquisite dishes, yet no one speaks. It seems that only the father has the right to speak, while others merely need to agree and be grateful. Although the mother is the head of the household, she has no authority. The mother panics at her husband's paused hand, and the so-called mistake is simply forgetting to prepare soy sauce. Amidst the mother's repeated apologies, the atmosphere at the dining table becomes increasingly oppressive. Thus, Kaneko desperately seeks the warmth of Chihiro. It seems that only near Chihiro does the food in her hands become delicious. Makoto, on the other hand, loves the fried noodles made by his mother. Unfortunately, the mother is always in a hurry, sometimes not returning home until late at night. Due to the lack of maternal care, Makoto finds support in Chihiro. Lonely souls collide, sparking a glimmer of light. Chihiro understands everyone's loneliness. As a guest once said, everyone is actually an alien residing in a human shell. Coming from different planets, they cannot understand each other, even if they are family, lovers, or friends. Yet in the vast sea of people, how difficult it is to meet one's own kind. Perhaps loneliness is the norm in this journey of life. But Kaneko still wants to believe that there is an antidote to loneliness. The antidote is hidden in some corner of the world, and one day it will be found. After hearing this, Chihiro smiled and handed Kaneko a treasure map, suggesting that Kaneko go search for it. Perhaps her kind is there. Kaneko's train is about to welcome new passengers, while someone quietly gets off beside Chihiro. As Chihiro takes a moment to relax, her phone rings again. Her younger brother has been looking for Chihiro for a long time, and this time Chihiro finally decides to answer the call. Her brother's sorrowful voice comes through the receiver. Upon hearing the news of their mother's passing, Chihiro gently strokes the cat in front of her and firmly declines the invitation to the funeral. Chihiro excuses herself, saying she needs to return to work, and hangs up the phone. The sea breeze suddenly becomes noisy, just like Chihiro's turbulent heart. Work is also not going smoothly. Makoto's mother comes to the door. Makoto's mother angrily criticizes Chihiro for bringing food to her son, claiming it has caused her trouble, and now the neighbors are gossiping behind her back. Chihiro calmly apologizes to her, and her sincere attitude leaves the other party with no grounds for accusation, forcing her to swallow her unexpressed anger and turn away. Every family's misfortune is different. With the treasure map in hand, Kaneko wants to refuse the family gathering this weekend. Even though her father seemed to thoughtfully arrange the pottery class that Kaneko had mentioned, his stern attitude made Kaneko uncomfortable. Compared to the seemingly harmonious family gatherings, Kaneko preferred to be with her friends and enjoy her freedom. However, her father's scolding was like a storm, and Kaneko could only timidly swallow her grievances. Under Kaneko's compromise, the atmosphere at the dining table slightly eased. But Kaneko could never let go of that treasure map. During her free time, Kaneko found the building covered in withered vines. This secret base welcomed a second lonely soul. The comics on the bookshelf brought the two closer together. Amid the sound of the whistle outside, time flowed slowly. Chihiro headed to the hospital with a box. At this time, Tei had already lost her sight, yet she remained skillful and quickly took out the acorn from the box. Tei held the fruit tightly in her hand, her thoughts drifting back to her daughter's 20th birthday. On that day, Tei had also collected many acorns. It was unclear when it happened, but Tei's child had become like this acorn, with a hard shell. No matter how much external force shook it, it remained silent. Perhaps this is the price of growing up. But Chihiro knew that what Tei was waiting for was merely a response. Even a simple reply would be better than prolonged silence. After returning from the hospital, Chihiro strolled along the coastline. The deep night was like a huge blue satin, and the car lights cast a warm yellow glow on Chihiro. Chihiro was always surrounded by warm tones, yet a sense of solitude lingered around her. A seagull lying in front of her made Chihiro stop. This was Chihiro's second time burying a lost life. The sound of the sea breeze reminded Chihiro of the sound of wind blowing through leaves. That was when young Chihiro first tried making nori sushi. It sounded simple, but the result was a complete mess. Chihiro sat beside the shrine, dealing with these failed creations alone. Her small figure attracted the attention of a woman nearby. The woman, with a lollipop in her mouth, sat casually but inwardly praised Chihiro's skills delicately. The sight of the woman taking big bites of a sushi brought a smile to the girl's youthful face. The originally quiet night was no longer lonely because the woman told Chihiro that the late night belonged to them. The two briefly walked together, and on that small bridge, young Chihiro shyly wanted to hold the woman's hand. The woman did not refuse and directly held Chihiro's hand. At the crossroads, young Chihiro gave the woman an acorn as they parted ways. That is like a medal, representing the child's most sincere recognition. The woman happily accepted this gift and, as a return gift, handed over her business card. The woman smiled and introduced herself. Her name was Chihiro. The business card in the girl's hand was like a key, unlocking a brand new life for her many years later. The young girl once longed for closeness and warmth, until she grew into the Chihiro of today. The figure gradually fading away under the streetlight is a kindred spirit passing by, the true self within. Chihiro soberly examines this world. This glass bottle is filled with all kinds of expectations, hurts, and brokenness. All emotions have their sources, just like the furious regular Taniguchi at the ramen shop. Taniguchi was always taciturn, but today he fought fiercely for the bullied chef. Chihiro had never seen Taniguchi like this. Realizing his own loss of composure, Taniguchi silently returned to his seat. Only after they finished their meal did Taniguchi apologize for his earlier impulse. The noisy sea breeze could not cover up Taniguchi's painful memories. The confrontation with his father seemed to last until the end of his life. When Taniguchi spoke of fighting with his father, he pressed down on the tattoo on his arm. It was like a talisman, constantly reminding Taniguchi to restrain himself and stay calm. It seemed that only in this way could he suppress the thought of giving up everything. Life is full of hardships. Everyone has experienced a moment of despair. Rather than indulging in the painful past, it is better to temporarily let go with a moment of joy. At the moment their eyes met, Taniguchi felt his twisted life gradually smoothing out. Just like Chihiro's former profession, Chihiro had taken on countless disheartened souls. All those who came seeking pleasure merely wanted to cover their inner loneliness with a revelry. People are candid with each other, yet they are merely passing acquaintances. Emotions that have no place to settle can be stored, but can never become a refuge. Because of Chihiro's clarity, she has never stepped into the river of love. However, not everyone can face loneliness calmly. Some are still stubbornly searching for an antidote, looking for a partner from the same planet. Kaneko was excluded from her former small group. Kaneko met the equally lonely Chinatsu on the rooftop, and their laughter echoed above. But Kaneko still did not eat that exquisite bento. Although her mother's cooking was good, it always lacked the flavor Kaneko longed for the most. How can Kaneko find the food that brings her peace of mind? Even beside her peer Chinatsu, Kaneko cannot find a deep connection within her soul. On the other side, Makoto's mother comes to the store again. Makoto's mother throws a bouquet of flowers at Chihiro, scolding her for corrupting her child. Makoto is still young and would never do such a thing. However, this time, Makoto's mother underestimates the child's pure intentions. Looking at the childish handwriting on the card, Chihiro insists that the other person accept the small bouquet. Because this is not just a blessing, but also a sincere heart from a young child. And Chihiro's friend Basil has also found his own place. To give his soul a moment of respite, Basil works at Chihiro's former boss's fish shop. The two sit in front of the fish tank, watching the goldfish sink to the bottom, wondering what beautiful dreams the goldfish might be having. Chihiro lies in a sunlit home, as if sinking into the deep sea. Chihiro avoids all social interactions with the outside world, even politely declining the bar owner's invitation. But humans are different from fish. Even if they escape, they ultimately have to face reality. The bar owner's words are profound. Chihiro finally decides to go to the cemetery. Beside the cold tombstone, Chihiro silently gazes into the distance. Compared to the loved ones resting underground, Chihiro cares even more about the ants that fall into the puddles. There are no tears streaming down as expected, nor is there any incessant longing. Chihiro takes out a tin box filled with acorns and grabs the fruits one by one. It seems still not enough, so Chihiro simply pours out all the acorns. No one knows what emotions this action carries, but at least Chihiro had a good, restful sleep. Chihiro seems to have had a long dream. The figure by the sea reflects in Chihiro's hazy, sleepy eyes, stirring a slight flutter in her heart. But this feeling is not simple. It cannot be easily defined as a romantic relationship. If it must be given a definition, perhaps it is a bond akin to familial affection. The old shopkeeper is like Chihiro's father, embracing her downfall during her most disheartened moments. Those are a pair of dusty, already worn-out leather shoes. Wearing them, Chihiro sits across from the shopkeeper, feeling awkward in her suit, her face full of travel fatigue. Everything makes Chihiro feel out of place in the bar's environment. Just at the moment when Chihiro wants to take a leap, she remembers the streetlight from that year. Thus, the quiet girl disappears, replaced by a brand new Chihiro. A sudden downpour broke the tranquility of the night. While doing homework, Kaneko received a call that Makoto had accidentally lost the house key. Makoto had been waiting at the door for a long time, but his mother still had not returned. Hungry, Makoto had no choice but to seek help from others. Kaneko quietly went to the kitchen to make rice balls, but was still discovered by her mother. Seeing her mother's serious expression, the smile on Kaneko's face gradually faded. Her act of helping a friend was criticized as being inconsiderate of others' feelings. The lack of understanding from her family left Kaneko feeling deeply disappointed. Looking at the impatience in her mother's eyes, Kaneko's feelings of grievance and anger finally erupted. Kaneko threw the rice ball in her hand and rushed out the door. In this rainy night, all lonely souls were rushing towards each other. Even Chihiro came to pick up Tei, who had been hospitalized for several days. This action startled the hospital and the family. Tei's husband, upon hearing the familiar name, finally relaxed, realizing that Aya was Chihiro's real name. However, Chihiro preferred to be called Chihiro, as if that name was her true self. The sound of rain outside was urgent, yet the atmosphere inside the car was particularly relaxed. Chihiro and Tei sat side by side, listening to the noisy sound of the rain. This rain reminded them of their first meeting. It was also a heavy rain. Chihiro stepped lightly over the puddles and arrived at the still-open bento shop. At that time, Tei's eyes were clear, joyfully watching the raindrops outside the eaves. Tei enjoyed the moment of rain, even feeling a surge of emotions because of it. While waiting for the bento, Tei asked Chihiro about her job. Chihiro hesitated slightly, but did not avoid the question, smiling as she mentioned her previous job. After hearing this, Tei nodded with a smile. Tei's gaze remained clear, showing no change due to Chihiro's experiences. In that moment, Chihiro felt a tremor. This person was a companion from the same planet as Chihiro. This was the second time Chihiro had such a feeling. The last time was with a woman named Chihiro. Chihiro was not just a person, a name, or a group. Chihiro was more like a symbol, representing the antidote to loneliness, representing companions from the same planet. If possible, all beings will eventually meet their own Chihiro, just like Kaneko and Makoto. Kaneko and Makoto squeezed under the narrow eaves, the sound of hurried high heels ringing in their ears. After Makoto's mother returned home from work, Kaneko finally saw what a home should look like. A home can be crowded and messy, filled with the smell of cooking. As long as it is filled with deep love, it is the best harbor. Looking at the mixed dishes in front of her, Kaneko felt a pang of sadness. From beginning to end, what Kaneko wanted was not an exquisite presentation, but a relaxed and comfortable family atmosphere. Just like in Makoto's home, where all emotions can be expressed openly, rather than in silence, repression, and cold decorum. The shiny noodles carried a casual warmth, and the taste on her tongue made Kaneko instantly vulnerable. Kaneko could finally experience the true flavor of food at the dining table. As Makoto boasted, this was the best fried noodles Makoto had ever eaten. Kaneko finally reached a reconciliation with herself. All beings are always seeking a kind of recognition. The topic of parent-child relationships entangles a lifetime. Even seemingly relieved Chihiro would still have doubts. Chihiro never understood why she could calmly face parting, even when the deceased was a close relative. If it was because she had never been understood that she felt so distant, then if Tae were her mother, would everything be different? Chihiro could not provide an answer, but Tae knew it would be an ordinary answer. Because Chihiro's growth stemmed from past experiences, Chihiro repeatedly overcame loneliness, repeatedly found herself. In her 29 years of life, Chihiro had countless days and nights conversing with herself. Repeated self-reflection forged Chihiro's clear and transparent life. Chihiro did not know if everything she did was right, but she knew it was what she wanted to do. Therefore, regardless of whether others' evaluations were frivolous or mocking, Chihiro insisted on revealing her true self, until Chihiro's actions were recognized. Some like the current Chihiro, even embracing the lonely Chihiro. The loving embrace made Chihiro curl her arms, and in that moment, Chihiro felt genuine warmth. That was a temperature that even the sun could not compare to, as if the cold loneliness turned into crystalline tears, quietly melting away. On a cold, rainy night, Tae was discharged from the hospital. Everyone held a gathering on the rooftop. When Tae's husband asked Chihiro how to address her, it was the first time Chihiro hesitated, beginning to waver between her true self and her inner self. The noise of the crowd and the embrace from last night made Chihiro feel somewhat intoxicated. It was just the sudden call of Chihiro that brought Chihiro back to her senses. Chihiro still preferred her awake self. Watching the people around her come together because of Chihiro find their home, a satisfied smile appeared on Chihiro's face. Everyone was healed, and this healing was not initiated by Chihiro. In fact, Chihiro did nothing. She simply displayed a relaxed and carefree state of living, allowing others to free themselves from their twisted lives. No one was Chihiro, yet everyone was like a fragment of Chihiro, a piece of a puzzle. In the process of gathering, people pieced together a complete Chihiro. When this chaotic puzzle was completed, Chihiro realized it was time to leave. Because of the entangled bonds, the warm home, and the rare companions, Chihiro felt a bit indulged. The revelry on the rooftop continued, but only Tae noticed Chihiro's departure. A sense of loneliness quietly dissipated, and Tae couldn't help but speak up to keep her. But some farewells simply have no tomorrow. At the entrance of the bento shop, a recruitment notice was posted again. Tae sat with her husband peeling chestnuts behind the house, smiling, yet still couldn't help but think of Chihiro. That girl who focused on eating during the interview. That girl who always smiled gently behind the counter. Chihiro was like the noisy sea breeze, like the sunset on the water. People would find the sunlight warm and healing, yet could not ignore the strength and coldness of the sea breeze. This was Chihiro's unique power, gentle, distant, lonely, free. Even though Chihiro had left, Tae knew that Chihiro would take good care of herself. After all, eating alone can also be delightful. Chihiro would surely live well. The little boat, named Chihiro, sailed away from the harbor. Chihiro chose a more solitary job. In the sparsely populated ranch, Chihiro began a new life. Though she did not linger in the past, the years at the bento shop had already become part of her bones and blood. When faced with the ranch owner's inquiry, Chihiro smiled and said she was just a bento shop employee. Yet when mentioning this place, Chihiro's eyes became moist, as if the tides of that harbor still lingered in her eyes.